Now we get to have some fun. We're going to add some interface objects to the flipside view using the Interface Builder. And then we're going to connect those interface objects using Interface Builder to the accessor methods that we added to the code. We create the connection in Interface Builder so that when the nib file is loaded, the nib loading code will create these connections automatically using the accessors we had the compiler create. Now here we are back in our My World app, and I can show you where we put those accessors. They are right here in the flipside view controller, the text field, slider, and slider text. They are tagged IB outlet so that the Interface Builder can find them. So now we're ready to open Interface Builder with the flipside view nib file, which is right here, flipsideview.xib. And as you can see, the Interface Builder shows up in the center of the screen. If you click something on it, you'll see to the right side the inspector panes for the Interface Builder. If you don't see it, you may be wanting to click this button on the right side of the View Selector buttons so that they show up. As you know, we have our Interface Builder objects here in the dock. Let's expand the dock a little bit so that we can see what we're doing. We have the file's owner, the first responder, and the view object itself. The view object has, of course, a navigation bar, a navigation item, and a bar button. And we've seen this already. Let's close view for a second and leave it like that. And let's close this dock for a second, clicking the disclosure triangle down here so that we can see more of the view in the canvas in the middle of Interface Builder. Now we're going to go to the library here to bring out an object. We're going to select objects at the top, although we could get more specific, but let's just look at a few objects. They're all right here. You can scroll through them. At the very top, we have one of them that we know we're going to use called text field. And if you double click it, you see all of this information about text field. You see that it displays a rounded rectangle and it contains editable text. When the user taps a text field, a keyboard appears. This looks like one of the things we're going to want to do, one of the interface objects we're going to want to add to the flipside view. So let's click done and look at another one, slider. Now slider is something we're probably going to want to use as well. It displays a horizontal bar called a track that represents a range of values. The current value is shown by the position of an indicator or thumb in the middle of the slider. The user selects a value by sliding the thumb along the track. That makes sense. That's what a slider does. So what we want to do is first we want to select the view icon over here to show where we want to put the slider, which is in the view. And second, we want to drag the slider right into the view. Now a blue line appears showing where we can center the thumb of the slider in the middle of the screen, which is what we want to do. So we're going to put that up here towards the top, and there's our slider. You see it has handles on its edges. We can drag those handles to make it longer, which would be useful. Drag it to here and drag it to, say, here. We like the placement, fine. If we want to move it around a little bit, we can move it around and center it. Now another thing we need to do is to set the slider's values. So now that the slider is selected, we click the Attributes Inspector, or we can choose View, Utilities, Attributes Inspector. And what we want to do is change the minimum, maximum, and initial values, or current value. The minimum will be 1, the maximum 20, and the current 10. And there we have them. The value of 1 at the very left side, the value of 20 at the right side, and it's set to 10, which is in the middle. Now we want to do some other things, and in order to do them, we want to expand the dock so that we can see what we're working with. We want to open the view here. Now we have our slider right here, which is what we want. We also have the navigation bar, as you know, and we saw this earlier. It has a navigation item title and a bar button, which says done. We want to select navigation item title, and we want to click the attributes button, which we have already selected here. And we want to type a new title in the title field right here. I think we should call it settings. Bingo. Settings is now the name of the flipside view. So now let's reselect this horizontal slider because we need to do some things with it. One of the things we need to do that's most important, besides look over its attributes, which we're going to leave as is that we need to connect the slider to the code, the accessor method in flipside view controller. Now, in order to do that, we first click the Connections Inspector here. Connections Inspector can also be shown by choosing View, Utilities, Connections Inspector. Now we've selected horizontal slider and we've opened the Connections Inspector. And we want to click this for referencing outlets. It's actually already open, but if it had been closed, we would have opened it this way by clicking the disclosure triangle. And what we want to do is we want to drag from the connection point for a new referencing outlet over to Files Owner. Files Owner, as we know already, is Flipside View Controller. So as you can see, we are actually connecting it to Files Owner. And when we let go, two methods appear, Slider and View. The one we want is Slider. So we choose Slider here, and bingo, there we are. We have connected horizontal slider to the slider accessor method. So the slider outlet, which is back here in Flipside View Controller, right here, is now connected in the nib file from horizontal slider. Very good. Now we want to close this view again, the view icon, so that we can select it. And then we want to drag our next interface object, which in this case is going to be the text field. Again, we see the description. We can click Done. And what we're going to do is drag the text field in for the entry. Here's where our text field is going to go. Let's say right there. If we like its position, we can still move it around. It also has handles so that we can drag them. And as you notice, while we drag, a guide shows up to line them up automatically with the other interface object. So very neatly, we've created a text field here. And we can look at the text field's attributes by clicking the Attributes button here for the Attributes Inspector. And we see that it's a text. The placeholder says placeholder text. Background is background image. No, we're not having a background image. Although it'd be interesting if we did, but we're not. The alignment is left. Border style is that circular border style, and etc. We've got a text color, a font, and so forth. We're actually not going to change any of these attributes. We like them just the way they are. So now we're going to do the same thing with text field. We're going to connect it to the outlet in the code. We select text field. We click the connections button up here for the connections inspector. And once again, we go to the referencing outlets section down here, and we drag from the connection point for a new referencing outlet to Files Owner in the dock. And when we do so, the text field outlet pops up as well as the view when we want the text field. So we choose the text field from the pop-up menu, and that connects the code, the outlet called the text field, to this text field right here. But now we have a text field delegate. So what we want to do is, with the text field still selected here, we need to drag a connection point for delegate at the top of the pane right here to Files Owner. And this will hook up the text field's delegate connector to Flipside View Controller. That's what we need. So now we've put in two interface objects and connected them to the code. The third object we're going to use is going to display the slider's value. And we're going to use a label object. So let's go look for a label object right at the top here. A label implements a read-only text view. It can contain any kind of text, but it may shrink, wrap, or truncate the text depending on the size of the bounding rectangle and so forth. And you can control the font and whatnot. And what we're going to do with label is that we're going to display the slider's value in it. We want to drag the label underneath the slider right here. And once again, it's in the view icon along with text field and slider. We can drag this label to any size. We can move it around. We can center it. We can go to its attributes and we can say center the alignment so it appears right in the center. Now the text in the label, we want to change its color. And so we'll just use white. So let's close the dock here and see what we have. One thing I noticed right away is that the slider seems not quite centered. And the reason for that really is because of our minimum value. So if we set the minimum value to 0, that would look a little better. And now that we've done that, we may want to check the constants and see what we've defined. Our maximum speed is 20, so that's fine. And so we can go back to Flipside View. We've set this to 20, and we're all set. Now we still need to connect the label to the code. So let's open the dock again, open View, and select the label. And we want to connect this, so we go to the Connections Inspector once again. And here we're going to drag a connection point for the new referencing outlet to the file's owner. Up pops slider text, which is what we're looking for, the outlet that we need. And we select slider text, and our label is now connected to the slider text accessor outlet. So now that we've done all this, we want to save. We'll close the dock, and we'll admire the view of our new user interface in the Flipside view, which is now called the settings view.